The Lord be with you, and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powerscourt with Kilbride. It's Sunday the 28th of July. The year, as I always say, seems to be flying along, and you're welcome to join us this particular Sunday as we draw together in this small square into the constant presence of God wherever we may be today, and we hear His holy word read, and we think a little bit about what it might be saying into our lives. But first, let's settle ourselves as we open a peaceful time of prayer. When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, got into a boat, and started across the lake to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The lake became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the lake and coming near to the boat, and they were terrified. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they wanted to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the land towards which they were going. Well, we can say what we like about the disciples of the Christ, but one thing we can't accuse them of is disobedience. When you think about it, there are an awful lot of scriptures where we hear Jesus said to them, "Let's go to the other side. Let's go to that other town. Come away up a mountain with me. Come away and rest by yourselves. Or go out there now in my name with very little, rely on the hospitality of others, heal and teach and there's never a question of them not doing it. Now, we come across some questions in the mind of Peter and some faux pas, and also, I suppose, a bit of doubt in the mind of Thomas. But these are only a few examples. By and large, the disciples are very biddable people. And so this morning, when we find them in a boat, we are told they get into a boat after the feeding of thousands of people. That is a huge miracle in itself. They get into a boat. We think it's the end of the day, and they are told by Jesus to make their way over to Capernaum. In St. John's Gospel that we heard this morning, that we just told they're in the boat making their way over. But in St. Mark's Gospel, we're told that Jesus sends them off ahead of him. He dismisses the crowds himself, and then he goes up the mountain, presumably to commune with God. So as we find these willing and obedient disciples in the boat this morning, to pull a little thread on even that part of the scripture today, it begs a question of us: how obedient are we? Or indeed, how intuitive are we to the voice of God in the first place? Do we actually believe and realize that God's voice speaks into the circumstances of everything that we encounter in this life, if we but look and listen for that voice? So how intuitive are we to the voice of direction by God, which is available to us if we're willing and we trust? And how obedient are we when we finally get that message from the Lord? For example, you should give her a ring, or you might go and see him, or, a multitude of different things. And we think, no, maybe not. How obedient are we when we recognize where God is leading us? We're told that the disciples are in the boat, darkness begins to fall, and the weather takes a turn. The winds presumably rise and the sea beneath the boat becomes more choppy. And they're 3 or 4 miles out, I think they are straining at the oars, and the Christ is not with them. They are tired, no doubt, after the escapades of the day, a miraculous day, and all they really want to do now is rest. But they have been sent by the Christ into this circumstance, which is less than ideal. What are the circumstances within your life that you might be facing today, or that you are worried about in the future, or even the things you remember in the past as a sign of Christ's presence when you have been led into uncomfortable circumstances? You find yourself in them, and everything within your logical and rational mind that seems to be ruling your life is telling you that this is not the right place to be. This isn't necessarily the safe place to be. It's not the right route to take. So all your rational, logical sense is screaming at you, no, this is not right, and you're straining on those oars, and you seem to be getting nowhere, and the panic is rising up in you, and there doesn't seem to be a Christ near you at all. Have you felt that in your life? Let me draw your attention to one thing, and the fact is that he comes to them walking on the water. Now, we'll leave the old walking on the water there for a second. He comes to them. No matter what account we have in Scripture of where Jesus was after the feeding of thousands of people, the fact is, and I believe this, that he has always known where they were and what they were at, even when he wasn't with them. It's like, as the Irish mother said, I can see every move you make, I've got eyes in the back of my head. Even if he was up a mountain, communing with the divine, there wasn't ever a time, a passing, fleeting moment in the disciples' lives when he didn't know where they were. He understands their humanity. He knows that they have been struggling at the oars. He knows that the circumstances around them are becoming terrifying for them. And he comes to them. Now, it's interesting to note through Scripture that he doesn't actually climb into the boat. He draws near to the boat. And they presumably don't recognize him. In another account, we're told that they think that he's a ghost. It always surprises me. You have been with this man. You have seen so many miracles. Why do you default to the logical brain that says that must be a spectre or a ghost? Why don't they recognize him? Sometimes we can't recognize the presence of the Christ at all because we are so utterly blocked by terror and fear. But he draws close to our circumstances. And here is the clincher. He says, "It is I. Do not be afraid." That's it. Is there an aha moment in the darkness? Is it today? Are you straining at your oars or surrounded by darkness and unsure what way to go? And do you actually need to just place that into his hands? Do you need to open your heart and say, Lord, I'm in the middle of this sea. I am in this boat. I've been working really hard to try and get in one particular direction. I know that you've drawn close to me. I know that you are there. I am actually going to give all my fear up and place this into your hands. It is I, the great I am, the creator of all there is. I need to be careful when I say this, because I know that there are people out there who are deeply suffering. Is it at all possible that on some occasions the Christ draws us into uncomfortable situations and waters in order to expand us further? The disciples didn't know of his presence in that circumstance until they actually were told by him, until they heard his words. Then they knew even more about him. They knew that he had the ability to even take the very things that were worrying them, the wind and the sea, and place them beneath his feet. to actually take the elements of the earth and bid them to do his will, to support him in order that he walk upon them. Isn't it a remarkable thought for us today? There is absolutely nothing that we are facing. There is nothing we are facing that we are facing alone. There is nothing or nowhere we can be where he is not with us. He knows where we are and what we're at in every circumstance. He comes to us, he identifies our need, he sees our straining at the oars, and he comes to us. And today, wherever you are, whatever circumstance you are in, these words are for you. It is I, he says today to you. It is I. Do not be afraid. You might have heard the story of a fella who is working in a theme park and he's in charge of the rowing boats, and his job is to take the tickets and then to call the rowboats in by their number when 30 minutes has passed after they've gone out. And so there he is, and he takes up the megaphone and he says, "Number 6, come in now, your time is up. Number 6, your time is up." And 10 minutes pass and there's no sign of number 6, so he tries it again. He says, "Number 6, your final warning now, your time is well up, come in, number 6. And minutes pass again and there's absolutely no sign, no response whatsoever. And he thinks about this, and then he puts the megaphone to his mouth again and he says, "Number 9, are you experiencing difficulties?"